Hey everyone, welcome back. Ready for another deep dive.
Always.
This time we're tackling a figure who needs no introduction. Zeus, the king of the gods.
Zeus. A powerful figure indeed.
And kind of a complicated one, right? I mean, we all know about the lightning bolts and the whole ruling Mount Olympus thing.
Oh, yeah, he's definitely got that commanding presence.
But then you dig a little deeper and you find stories about him disguising himself as animals to, well, let's just say he had a way with the ladies.
He had a certain reputation, that's for sure. Shall we say a bit of a romantic?
Romantic might be putting it mildly. But that's what makes these myths so fascinating. They're not just stories about gods and goddesses. They're a window into how the ancient Greeks saw the world, their values, their beliefs.
Absolutely. And their anxieties, their struggles with the big questions. Power, fate, the nature of divinity, all played out through these larger-than-life figures.
It's like their version of a reality show with a lot more drama and a lot more lightning.
Haha, that's one way to put it.
So let's dive in. Where do we even begin with a figure as complex as Zeus?
Well, the sources we have are mainly epic poems and plays like Homer's Iliad and Odyssey and Hesiod's Theogony, and of course the many, many myths and stories that have been passed down through the centuries.
And these sources, they don't always paint a perfectly consistent picture of him, do they?
Not always, no. In some stories, he's the wise and just ruler upholding cosmic order, but in others, well, let's just say his actions are driven by more, shall we say, human impulses.
Right, like that whole swallowing his wife thing. Not exactly a model husband move.
No, not really. But that's the story of Metis, his first wife. He was afraid of a prophecy that their child would overthrow him, so he swallowed her.
Talk about an overreaction.
It does seem a bit drastic, doesn't it? But it speaks to his fear, his insecurity even, despite being the most powerful god.
And this wasn't just some random act of cruelty, right? It had lasting consequences.
Oh, absolutely. Metis was already pregnant with Athena at the time.
Oh, wow.
And instead of, well, the usual way, Athena is eventually born, fully grown and armored, from Zeus's head.
That's got to give you a headache.
It's definitely one of the more memorable birth stories in Greek mythology. But it also speaks to Athena's unique position. She inherits her mother's wisdom and strategic mind, becoming this powerful goddess of war and wisdom.
So even in trying to control fate, Zeus ends up creating one of his most powerful rivals.
Exactly. And that tension between Zeus and Athena plays out in many stories. She challenges his authority, she stands up to him, even outsmarts him at times.
So it's not just about Zeus being all-powerful. It's about these complex relationships, these power dynamics that even the gods have to navigate.
Precisely. It's a reminder that power, even divine power, is never absolute. And that even the king of the gods has to deal with consequences, with challenges, with forces he can't always control.
I guess it makes them a little more relatable, right? Even if their problems are on a slightly larger scale than ours.
A bit, yeah. And that's part of the enduring appeal of these myths, I think. They grapple with very human questions, even if they're played out on a cosmic stage.
And that's one of the things I love about this deep dive approach. We're not just retelling the stories. We're trying to understand what they meant to the people who told them and what they might still mean to us today.
Exactly. It's about peeling back the layers, exploring the different interpretations, the nuances. It's not about finding one definitive answer, because there often isn't one.
And it's okay, right?
Yeah,
It's more about the journey, the exploration, the conversation.
I think so. And the realization that these myths are still alive, still relevant, still open to interpretation.
Okay, so before we wrap up, is there one thing about Zeus, one detail from the myths that really stands out to you? Something that maybe people don't always know or consider?
Well, we often focus on Zeus's power, his authority, his romantic escapades. But one thing that's always struck me is the story of his childhood. He was hidden away by his mother to protect him from his father, Cronus, who had a habit of swallowing his children.
Yeah, family tradition, apparently.
Right. So Zeus grows up in this cave, cared for by nymphs, constantly in fear of being discovered. It's a side of him we don't often see, this vulnerability, this sense of being hunted.
It adds a whole new dimension to his character, doesn't it? Makes you wonder how that experience shaped him, how it might have influenced his actions later on.
Exactly. It reminds us that even the most powerful figures have their own stories, their own vulnerabilities, their own formative experiences that shape who they become.
And that's a great takeaway, not just from the myths, but from life in general, I think.
Couldn't agree more.
Well, that about wraps up our deep dive into the world of Zeus. But this is just the beginning, really. There's so much more to explore, so many different interpretations and perspectives.
It's a journey of discovery, and everyone's journey is unique.
So keep exploring, keep questioning, keep digging deeper into these fascinating stories. And if you have any thoughts, any burning questions about Zeus, we'd love to hear from you. Let's keep the conversation going.
Absolutely. There's always more to learn.
Thanks for joining us, and until next time, happy myth exploring.
See you next time.